So for those of you who don't know Christian, he's the EVP of product at Snowflake. He has more than 15 years of product experience, and prior to Snowflake, he was at Microsoft and served as general manager of the data warehousing product unit. And at Google, he led YouTube's infrastructure and data systems. So,
Sounds right.
yeah. All right, we read LinkedIn correctly then. Let's start off with again continuing down the road of AI, and we talk a lot about the role of AI and Snowflake's part in it. What's really interesting is if you pay attention to a lot of the recent announcements of Snowflake, they've talked about being flexible, meeting the customers where they are, etc. But we're no longer in an optimization of flexibility we're no in an era of optimization. We're more in an era of innovation at this point. Now, how do you think about balancing both customer feedback, which may be backward looking, and kind of your forward looking thoughts on the product or where the future is headed?
And so I would say for the longest time at Snowflake, we've had a clear thesis on how we want to help organizations, how we want to add value. But that's a long-term direction. How do you get there is very much based on partnering and listening to our customers. We pride ourselves on we don't know better. We're not in this ivory tower building technology, and if it doesn't work for you, it's because you're doing it wrong. No, it's we want to have ear to the ground. We feed off of opportunities and listening on what works, what doesn't work. But it's all informed towards a higher level goal. For me, the obsession is how do we eliminate data silos? How do we help organizations be able to reason across their entire data estates? AI has made it even more important. We talk about there is no AI strategy without a data strategy, and so that has continued to be the case. Like I was chatting with a bank a couple of days ago. It was this week, and it like, can AI help me with this? And the question was, can you find someone in your company that if you give them the question, will find the answer? And if the answer to that question is no, then I don't know that AI is magic. So AI is just a continuation of that example of how do we listen to our customers, innovate together, but it's also with the directional vector of how do we help organizations get value out of data.
That's interesting, and it starts kind of, I would say, bleeding into the discussion of how much do we stick to our old business, like tried and true, trying to grow that, versus how much time do we spend on new, more innovative products that maybe they have legs to run, right? And I think that one thing that's fascinating, going back to the different trends, is like what we've noticed, particularly in kind of cloud and later stages of the internet, is that a lot of the incumbents have done a phenomenal job at kind of protecting their moat. So how do you think about, let's say for Snowflake to become a $100 billion company, what does that kind of road look like, and what's the split between those two?
I would say something that we did well in the early years of the company was to establish ourselves as the data warehousing company. We had this slogan, data warehousing built for the cloud. One of the most painful things that we have these days is that we're known as a data warehousing company. And that's true of every successful initial positioning of a company or organization, which is once you expand, it is so difficult to get out of that initial positioning because it's been years now. We do tons of data engineering. If you want to do Python, you want to do Java, we have plenty of traditional predictive machine learning. We have AI, but many of the conversations we have are still, hey, can I use you for data warehousing? The way I would think about it is we want to help organizations with the entire life cycle of data. In the early years, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, it was very exciting but painful that there were organizations, companies telling us, if you do this, we'll pay you. So we had product market fit on things that we were not even dreaming of building, and they were all adjacencies to what we had built, and they were all informed by the philosophy by which we built the original Snowflake product, which we still carry forward. So everything we do is focused on simplicity, ease of use, abstracting complexity. So we have broadened dramatically what we do, but always with an adjacency to what we want to do. I think we have no appetite to go into applications or horizontals or verticals, but it's how do we help in the broader journey of data.
And when you talk about this broader journey of data, what I think is really interesting is, we talk about the innovation, and we talk about what's required. You talk about every, like the AI problem is actually a data problem, for example, right? So what are some of the problems that you guys are proactively solving to kind of embrace innovation and enable customers to embrace that innovation?
I'm a huge fan of governance. Many of you in here are responsible for security, and even if not, you have a role and a say on data management, data governance. Governance is one of these fuzzy words. Many people equate it just to security. But an important aspect of governance is, do I even know what data I have? It is not uncommon to talk to larger organizations, many Fortune 500, Global 2000, where they start with, I don't quite know what all I have, let alone how do I secure it. So we think of the journey of help help organizations discover data, enumerate data, catalog data, classify data. Where do I have PII data? It's a simple question. It's a hard process, and it's not just technology. Some of it is human business processes to identify that. But so the way I think the answer narrowly to your question is uh, governance of data, understood as I know what data I have clear policies, clear access controls, and then I can go leverage it for AI and plenty of other use cases. So that's a big part. I think many organizations use Snowflake primarily for the governance capabilities. Everything else, the price and the performance and all of that is second order. I'm not diminishing it, but helping organizations govern data is very important.
Interesting. It starts talking about the maybe the data vegetables, like Paul's point. And one other thing, I mean, so I'm sure you have several customers where they are much more advanced, right, than others. There's like the crawl, walk, run analogy that we talked about earlier. One thing that we're always trying to figure out is like, what is the future hold, and what is the next, what in, let's say in the next 12 months, what are some of the things that more advanced companies are doing in their data journey that the laggards or people that are kind of like earlier in their journey, we believe it will become commonplace.
It's an interesting question. I think that there are different ways to think of advanced. One vector is not necessarily it is more complex, but it's just the forward thinking of it. We're working with a car manufacturer in Japan, and their insight was AI is the next level of democratization of access to data. I've been doing data and data technology for long enough that I remember the big promise of BI, business intelligence, was data for the masses. And it is true. It changed the accessibility of data from it was an IT, a central team, a days or weeks of process to now many people in an organization can go into a BI tool and click on some dashboards and do some drill downs and get some answer. What this car manufacturer said is like, I have many people in the shop floor, factory floors, that they don't know how to use a BI tool, but they can speak. They can ask questions, and then they built with Snowflake a chatbot with a voice interface, and they're asking questions. Is this part available? How many more instances we have? And again, it's simple from what it was done. Well, I'm not trivializing it. It's hard work to get it to give the right answer, etc. But it's advanced from the thinking and the power of AI. So that's an interesting use case. Then there's the other ones which are technically advanced. I've been chatting with a healthcare organization that is trying to take all sorts of interesting data, train it into a custom LLM. The goal of the project is to identify patterns that would be more predictive to medical conditions. And the numbers that they were giving is like, if we just were to improve 1 or 2%, the chances of readmission into a hospital, you're doing a lot of benefit to humanity. The numbers we're studying, not only economically how much they spend and the cost to people, but also you're improving lives, and that's happening. And this is not the future. This is actual projects.
That's amazing. The comment on democratization of data is really interesting because, and I mean, part of it is a product, part of it is product, part of it is cost, and maybe there's some combination of the two. In the survey that we ran, we asked what is the largest barrier to adopting kind of AI or new technologies. And what I found was fascinating, and this was a complete surprise for me. I thought security actually would be much higher, and maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid of some of these vendors that Paul is talking about. I'm not sure, but there's only 7%. The largest barrier to adoption of AI and new technologies in general was almost half. It was at 44%, and it was cost or lack of ROI. And so as you think about like, could be AI, could be new products. What do you feel is the kind of split between opportunity between driving additional revenue and eliminating costs for customers? And they could be combined.
I think eliminating costs sounds a little bit too narrow and transactional. I like to think of more of improving productivity, which at the end of the day is a cost changes. So no doubt there. But most of the use cases that I see right now are just go and take processes that today have a heavy human element and turn into a lower human element. I don't yet subscribe to, oh, the machines are going to take over and you can remove it, to your point. Oh, I don't need to know how things work. No, I don't believe in that. But it has been for the last many years, decades, a combination of how much can computers and technology help me and how much humans do. I think what we're seeing with AI is a shift in that direction, or in that balance, where a lot more can be done by the machine, but still humans are validating, verifying, etc. I think that's the bulk of the use cases. At the same time, there are things that are truly mind-blowing on what you can do with some of this technology, but I think some of those are more bleeding edge, and it's going to take more time. Like the most common conversation I have with CIOs, CTOs, CEOs, it's all how do I improve productivity of my organization. We ourselves, Snowflake, we have deployed AI in lots of areas, both in our engineering team, but also our support team, which is what I think many organizations started and trying, and we see the benefits. So the productivity gains are great. Cost, I don't hear it as much when you're benchmarking against headcount and people, so that's more manageable. And security, I would say that the folks that are saying is not a priority or is not the biggest inhibitor may not all be as far along in the journey. I've heard now several AI projects being shut down because the chatbot leaked information or didn't honor some ACLs and permissions. So I think that we're still in the early stages of adoption, and my sense is that we're going to see more and more security and permissioning and privacy as an important factor.
That's a really interesting lens. And I think part of what was coloring my own perspective is just like, I remember back to, 3, 4, 5 months after ChatGPT was announced, you saw, there were a handful of Fortune 500s that just outlawed any AI in the enterprise. And obviously that was short lived, but still fascinating nonetheless. And of course, like, I think we are in early days, and a lot of the use cases, again, going back to the survey, a lot of the primary use cases is around developers right now, coding. And that's certainly gone mainstream. And the second, of course, to your point, was customer service or customer success. You did bring up an interesting point, and I want to kind of like end on this, which is, and I'll ask you 2 questions. You can take your pick. If you had to send one message to every CIO, CTO, CISO, kind of like in the world or in this room, what would that be? And or what is a lie?
Choose your own adventure?
Choose your own adventure, or both. What is one lie, one data-related lie that you think people shouldn't fall for? What's one common misconception?
I think that I can have some comment that those 2 questions are related. My advice to every organization in the room, but also what I do like on a day-to-day basis is get your data story in order. if you want to leverage AI for data. And of course, my day to day and my life is all about most organizations want to leverage AI for talking to the data, whether it's structured data or unstructured data. And I see so many instances, which is where you get into the lie part of it, where there's this belief that AI is magic. And hey, I have not reconciled my data models for years. I do not have clear permissions. I have 3 copies of the same data set, and somehow AI is going to give me a single correct answer. No, AI is amazing technology. I'm on the bull camp here. I think it will drive dramatic economic change. It will democratize data. It will make all of us more productive. It will create disruption. It will create a economic opportunity. But there's no magic. There are some things that are the fundamentals. So I would say that's the lie, and the fix to the lie is get data in order, eliminate silos where possible, eliminate copies, and that's the path to productivity.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining. Everybody, please give Christian a round of applause.
Thank you, Jake.